The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of NASCAR, is now live in North Carolina. Now you can legally bet on all your favorite sports anytime, anywhere, right here in North Carolina with DraftKings. For a limited time, new customers who sign up with promo code Tobacco Road and bet $5 will receive $250 instantly in bonus bets. DraftKings has the best features, including same-game parlays, player props, and more with fast and easy payouts right at your fingertips. They're doing NASCAR. They're also doing college basketball. Join March Madness with the NCAA and NIT tournaments. Appalachian State at Wake Forest tonight during the NIT tournament. Currently, Wake is a 7-point favorite for that game. You can bet on those, several parlays, and many more. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now using code Tobacco Road and bet $5 to get $250 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code Tobacco Road. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook/NC. NASCAR is not a sponsor of this promotion and used under license. Well, everyone, welcome to the Cat Cave. Whether you're in North or South Carolina or anywhere else in the world, enter the Cat Cave with Michael Davis, Ryan Frick, and Shannon Smith to listen to your favorite Carolina Panthers podcast, part of the Keep Pounding Podcast Network and powered by the Fans First Sports Network. We're also having our YouTube feed on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. You can go follow that for more Cat Cave episodes. I've got several other episodes on there as well. But welcoming into the show, the host of Tap Outs and Touchdowns, Ryan Frick, and Mr. Podcast _ Smitty. We got Shannon Smith. You guys love their faces on your Tobacco Road channel. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for all the support and love last week. We're very appreciative of that, and let's keep things on going. The Panthers acquired Diontae Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers as soon as we went off air last week. And Diontae Johnson in 2023 caught 51 passes, 717 yards, and 5 touchdowns after having no touchdowns in 2022, and it almost became a meme. But the Panthers might have solved their wide receiver problems. Welcome into the Cat Cave. I'm going to ask just initial thoughts on the acquisition of Diontae Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ryan Frick, you have the floor.
Yeah, listen, they traded away a defensive back they were going to cut anyway. So it wasn't much of a loss, to be honest. It's not like they traded away yet more draft capital to go pick up an aging receiver in Diontae Johnson. I'm surprised from the stat line last year. Watching football in the NFL last season, I did not expect to see that stat line considering the struggles from the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett, who was no longer with the team. And the emergence of George Pickens in Pittsburgh. So Diontae Johnson's stat line is sort of mind-boggling to me, considering he was 300 yards shy of 1,000 yards, and he did have 5 scores. Listen, you can't do any worse, right? I mean, you've loaded the wide receiver room with a bunch of wide receivers who at one point in time showed potential and has never really panned out. And so Diontae Johnson looked like he was going to be a star for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially when it comes to a fantasy football perspective. And then he sort of fell off the face of the earth, and that's why Pittsburgh went out and got George Pickens. So listen, there's another guy that was out there until earlier this week that I thought the Panthers should go and try to nab, but he's on his way to New York to play with Aaron Rodgers. Is Mike Williams, former Clemson Tiger, here in the Carolinas. So listen, I'm not upset about it. I don't think you can get worse. It's not like they went and signed Odell Beckham Jr. It's not like they went out and signed Keenan Allen. Like they went out and signed Diontae Johnson's, or at least traded for Diontae Johnson. So maybe, I don't know, maybe he produces, maybe he gets cut before week 1. It's neither here nor there. The Panthers are still going to draft receivers in the second round. So, but not upset. Again, they basically got him for nothing because they were getting ready to cut the defensive back they traded away to Pittsburgh anyway. So congrats, I guess. Or I'm sorry that happened to you. Whatever works in this situation.
Hey, that's a really good point, Ryan. Very interesting. You're a South Carolina homer, and you kind of wanted a Clemson Tiger to join the Carolina Panthers. That might be a first here in the Cat Cave. Shannon, what was your thoughts on the Panthers trading for Diontae Johnson?
Now, if you remember the last episode, I said that the wide receiver spot is something that Carolina should consider in free agency. Well, here comes the fun part. They listened. So I was a little surprised by that. I think Dave Tepper, Dan Morgan might have been listening to our conversation, might be secret fans of the show. Who knows? And they went and got a receiver. But in the defense of my good friend Ryan here, he's absolutely correct. They got a guy that was aging. They got a guy who was kind of on the Adam Thielen side of his career. Adam Thielen had some bright spots in Minnesota, didn't really get a lot of exposure because he was right behind the Justin Jefferson, who is tearing up the league right now. Wonderful receiver, get well soon. He'll be back this year. But it's a good start for Carolina. That shows that they're actually going for receivers. They're trying to build something. And that's cool that you have guys that are older, that you have experienced receivers, because they could be precursors for the guys that are coming in. Because, like Ryan said, Carolina would be foolhardy not to go for receivers in this draft, with this loaded draft of receivers, with this draft of defensive backs, with these drafts of offensive linemen. They would be foolish not to go after these young studs and just waste their time getting older players that may be past their prime or maybe going for a second win. It's good to see Carolina invest in some money. It's good to see them go out there and get pieces that they may need. We don't know what we're going to get out of the new acquisition. We have no idea. It could be great, could not be. But I believe it when I see it, because we got gassed up last year with the free agency and the movements from last year. We were gassed up, and that gassing up come out just 2 wins. So let's find out. Don't get your hopes up just yet. Wait till the product is on the field.
They could have signed another. Sorry, they could have signed another Adam Thielen. They could have signed another Laviska Shenault. We don't know.
Absolutely.
Remember when you were so high on Laviska Shenault, and I told you
I was high on DJ Chark. Hold on. To be fair, I was higher on DJ Chark than I was Laviska Shenault, and DJ Chark had a couple of decent games. Matter of fact, had he not fumbled that ball, there's a chance that we may have beaten Tampa Bay at the end of the season.
Had who not
DJ
fumbled the
Chark.
ball? Okay.
DJ Chark. He had a touchdown, and he was, but I was higher on DJ Chark than Laviska Shenault. Just to be clear.
And that got a little better.
You were high on both of them, but it's okay. It's valid because
pull the tape, Michael. Pull the tape.
I will pull the tape.
Pull the tape.
We're going to talk about this on our group chat, and we'll just throw out the video where Ryan's like, I really like Laviska Shenault, but I'm not blaming you, because Carolina Panthers were big spenders in last year's free agency, and that got the entire fan base excited, especially trading up for the number 1 overall pick. But then fans quickly realized Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't turn an NFL franchise around just like that. Okay. You need the right pieces.
And the thing with Carolina, they're a squad that has to use the draft to build. I'm watching a little bit. I know this may be a little off base, but I look at some NBA teams like a Portland Trailblazer, like a San Antonio Spur, that has to build in the draft because they're a small market. Now, markets are not big like they are in football as opposed to basketball. But let's be honest here. The squads that have won in the past few years in the NFL have been squads that have built. Not this, like this says, which this has the greatest analogy, these microwave popcorn teams that have players that you get from other teams just to try to build a squad out of has-beens or guys that used to have relevance and try to win something. But these teams that have won, like the Kansas City Chiefs, that have won with the draft. the New England Patriots have won with the draft. They've built because they've had a scheme, they had a plan, they knew what they were going to do, and they did it. You're starting to see teams that don't have a plan when it comes down to drafting, when it comes down to free agency. They don't have a plan. And I think Carolina's one of those squads that just gets a bunch of guys and has absolutely don't know what to do.
And that's a great point. Like, where'd Luke Kuechly come from?
Right.
Oh, he came from the draft.
Yes.
I mean, where'd Steve Smith come from? Oh, the draft.
Exactly.
Like, you have to build these teams. And when you build in free agency, sometimes these click, and a lot of times you're just eating a lot of dead cap because you're cutting the guys a year or two down the road. But with Diontae Johnson, before we move on to our next topic, I did want to mention, I think Diontae is going to help. Shane mentioned helping the wide receiver room. I'm thinking of Jonathan Mingo, who's going to be entering his second year. I'm thinking of Bryce Young, who enters his second year. Okay, you have Adam Thielen, but he can't be your number one option. You get Diontae Johnson, you get Jonathan Mingo, and these guys can get helped. ISM, another one who can be helped by the veteran presence that Thielen and Diontae Johnson bring. And who knows, this might solve the wide receiver problem in Carolina. They might use the draft for a receiver. Ryan, do you think that's the way to go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, listen, this is probably one of the deepest wide receiver drafts we've seen ever, right? I mean, you're talking about in the top 10 picks in the NFL draft, you're looking at three quarterbacks potentially, or not, maybe 4 to 5 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers. I mean, you know how much clowning people did on the Detroit Lions drafting Charles Rodgers and eventually drafting another wide receiver and eventually drafting another wide receiver number 1. Like, it used to be a joke to draft wide receivers specifically in the top 10. And we're looking at potentially 2 in Rome Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr. Not to mention, and
Neighbors.
There's a couple other guys. Yeah, Neighbors is up there. So they're so deep at wide receiver. Once you get past those top 10 picks, you're going to see some offensive linemen. You're going to see some defensive backs, but it's going to come back around. And listen, maybe somebody takes a shot on Worthy, who broke the speed record at the combine this year from Texas. Maybe they don't, and Carolina is able to grab him. And listen, John Ross was also really fast at the NFL combine, and he didn't do anything in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Tyreek Hill is also very fast and has made a career out of being nothing more than extremely fast and able to catch the ball. So you never know if Worthy comes in and falls to late in the first round, early second round, so where Carolina can grab him. A guy, again, I'm going to continue to dwell on this, a guy like Xavier Legette, who's got top end speed, route running, and build to him that the Panthers can go out and get. And the Panthers now have 2 picks. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they might have 2 picks in the top 10 in the second round.
33 and 39.
Yeah, yep. So they've got some capital. They want to go grab a couple of toys for Bryce Young. But I think that's what they need to do. I mean, there's still other needs on this team, but we talked about it last week with the additions on the offensive line, some of the additions on defense. They went out and signed DJ Wanham, formerly the Minnesota Vikings, on defense. So they're building the team. At least they're trying to build the team the right way. But I've got this inkling, this suspicion that come the start of the regular season, we're going to be missing a lot of guys that we're looking at right now in the wide receiver room, be it the Laviska Shenault, the DJ Charks, potentially a Diontae Johnson, or even potentially a Jonathan Mingo. We don't know who is going to be on this team come week 1 of the 2024 season, but they've got to go out and draft some receivers because there's just too many in this draft not to go get them.
And Dez brought up a very good point on out of pocket as well, too, when he was talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They draft a Hines Ward, somebody who's in the 4th round, the 5th round. I was thinking of Antoine Randall. I was thinking of Plexico Burris. I was thinking of those guys that they drafted that had success, but they were not high draft picks. So receivers are usually found in that 4th and 5th round. I mean, the guy from the Saints that was from Hofstra, what was his name?
Marquez. Oh gosh. Marcus Colton?
Yes,
Colston.
Marcus Colston.
Yep.
He was a guy that flourished, and he was drafted out of Hofstra, small school guy. These guys were small school players, and they popped up fifth, sixth round, and these guys flourished in the NFL. They were franchise guys at one point in time. So, I mean, it's not about the fact that um, these players are not first round caliber. You start seeing the building and the pieces being built in the fourth and the fifth and the sixth rounds of drafts. Underrated players that may have flew under the radar because they were in a small school, or they might not have been in a big conference, because you know how that is. Everybody loves conference play. That's why SEC guys are always going off of the boards first. That's why your Pac-12 guys are going off of the boards first. Your Big Ten guys the same way. But then you get that Sun Belt guy, or you get that Conference USA guy, or you get that small conference, that Mountain West guy. That might be somebody. So there's still plenty of pieces left in here that the Panthers can get at if they draft smart.
It's unfortunate too. Sorry, Michael. It's unfortunate too that we're not in the situation that the Los Angeles Chargers are in. Like,
right.
I know this is a Panthers podcast, but they just traded away. They let go of Mike Williams, who's allegedly signing with the New York Jets, and then they trade again. The I guess the poor get richer as the Bears continue to try to build and go out and trade a potentially a fourth round pick for Keenan Allen. But the Chargers are in position, if they can work it out right, to not only be able to grab Marvin Harrison Jr. at 5, but then turn around and go get Blake Corum, the running back from Michigan, later in the first round. So you talk about building from the draft. The Chargers, despite having had an older wide receiver room, an older core, and I say an older core in Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, they could turn around and in 1 year replace those guys in Blake Corum and Marvin Harrison Jr. That's the idea, right? That's the idea of drafting, is to be able to build your team from the draft and then continue to keep them in. Whereas Carolina, unfortunately, the last 2 years has tried to do the opposite. And generally speaking, the teams that typically, quote unquote, win free agency don't win on the field. And the Carolina Panthers are a prime example of that.
I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan, because, people look back at free agency and you're like, man, we let so many people go, or man, we could have afforded that guy, or man, I wish, this player didn't walk away to the other team, or did we get overpay for this guy, or how does he fit? I want to switch the conversation to what is the biggest acquisition that Carolina's had this offseason? What's the biggest loss Carolina's had this offseason with the free agency starting? We've seen guys like Diontae Johnson come in, but we also saw additions to the offensive line. And at the same time, Carolina lost probably their two best defensive players, and Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu. Shannon, I'll start with you on this one. Who was the biggest acquisition and the biggest loss for Carolina?
I'm going to go ahead and get the bad news first. I'm pretty sure that we're all in agreement that Frankie Louvu was the guy that we did not want to lose. And that hurt, because that hurts the defense with the way that the defense was looking to rebound. We brought back Evero as a defensive coordinator. The defense was what held Carolina in check this year, gave them the chances that they had. The offense was very inconsistent, but you could always count on the defense, even though they were on an island most of the time. And Frankie Louvu accounted for 244 tackles in 2 years of football with the Carolina Panthers. And that ought to tell you something in itself. He was there the whole time. And it hurts. The Brian Burns thing, it hurts. Yes, it does. But Frankie Louvu hurts a lot worse. And he's going to a squad. He's going to a Washington squad that is just eating up free agency right now. And it's good for him. But when it comes down to the best acquisition, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's got to be between Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis for me. Because the line has got to be what's got to do it for Carolina. I like the fact that they're going and getting receivers. I like the fact that this draft is receiver friendly and receiver heavy. But every Panther fan that has watched this whole season knows that the offensive line was what did it, was what destroyed the Panthers. added to the inconsistency of Bryce Young. It added to the inconsistency of the wide receivers. It added to the inconsistency definitely in the running game, which was something that was helping Carolina on the offensive end. Chuba Hubbard was a very good running back on the squad, and he was the most consistent runner on the team. But it's hard. But think about all the yards that Chuba Hubbard could have gotten if he had a line that was going to support him running the football. So I think those two, the interior guards, and that's definitely what's been the biggest thing. The interior guard play has not been good for Carolina. Maybe outside of the tackles, they've been okay. They've been able to get away with some things, but that interior guard play was not good on that line. So those two guys, to me, they're the toss-up. Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, they're the toss-ups between them.
And Shane, before I throw it to Ryan, I do want to say, like, I completely agree with you. Like, those are the obvious answers of, shoring up that offensive line. Robert Hunt had one penalty last year. He had one penalty last year. Think about that, okay? He had one holding call. He had no false starts in the 11 games he played last year. He played a full season a couple years ago, 2021, 2022. And he had 6 penalties in 21, 10 in 22. But he is going to help this offensive line because it couldn't get much worse than what the Panthers O-line put on the field. And Bryce Young wasn't going to be successful behind that O-line. But many people are saying, like, Frankie Louvu is, like, a big loss. And I agree. But what about Josey Jewell? Like, Josey Jewell is a solid acquisition for the Carolina Panthers. I truly believe that. He's had 100 tackles in 3 of the last 4 years, and that other year, he only played 2 games in 2021. I believe that was due to injury. But people are sleeping on this Josey Jewell acquisition, who could end up replacing Louvu and making people forget all about Louvu's existence in Carolina. Just wanted to get that off before we asked Ryan this question about the biggest acquisition and biggest loss for the Panthers in free agency thus far.
Listen, I think the biggest loss has to be the fact that David Tepper hasn't put the team up for sale, right? we agree on this? Hashtag sell the team. I'm gonna find a way to work that in every show. But in actual, listen, you both went the Frankie Louvu route. I'm gonna go Brian Burns, not because of his production that we're losing, but because of what we got back for him. We had that graphic on the show a week or two ago regarding what was offered to us for Brian Burns and what we actually got for Brian Burns, being 2 drastically different things. And so for that, I've got to say that the Brian Burns loss is obviously the biggest loss. I mean, you could also argue again that the initial point that I made, but I mean, to touch on Frankie Louvu for one more second, like the rumor was that he wanted to go and play for Dan Quinn in Washington. So if he knew where he wanted to go and who he wanted to go play for, like there's no really bringing him back if he had his mind made up at the end of the season to begin with. But that being said, when it comes to biggest acquisitions, yeah, the obvious answer is the offensive line because that's where the biggest need for the Carolina Panthers were. But I'm going to give you a homer pick here, and I've mentioned his name already on the show, and I'm going to say DJ Wonnum. I think he's an extremely underrated player. He had 8 sacks last year. I keep absolutely beating to death the idea that David Tepper is the worst owner in sports. And when you pull the team away from the second state that claims the Carolina Panthers, what can you do to try to regain that fan base? And to start off is bringing back local talent. DJ Wonnum was a star player for the Will Muschamp era in South Carolina. And a lot of Gamecock fans are also Carolina Panthers fans because it is like their own home team. And so I mentioned about the idea about bringing Mike Williams in as a Clemson player. Again, if you can bring in some of these local guys, these guys that played college here, whether it's North or South Carolina, you're going to continue to keep people invested in the team. And not just because he's a local guy, but because he's a sneaky good player. Again, 8 sacks last season. He had some injury issues he's dealt with for the last couple of years. But you get him to stay healthy. I mean, he's a pass rusher. He can play really decently against the run. You talk about not worrying about Frank or not feeling the loss so much of Frankie Louvu with the signing of Josey Jewell. The same can be said for DJ Wonnum. And so I'm excited to see what kind of production he can bring to this team going forward into the 2024 season.
Real quick,
we're getting Clowney next, right? So we're gonna get
I hope so. Fingers crossed, dude. If Clowney signs with Carolina, it will be the first purchase I make as a Clowney jersey. I hope he goes back to the number 7, because in a heartbeat, dude, in a heartbeat, I would wear that jersey. All like when we start getting to preseason camp, that is the only shirt that I would wear on the show. I promise you. I save the tape on this, because I'll do it 100%.
It's funny because you mentioned, Jadeveon Clowney potentially coming to the Carolina Panthers, and that's what Des brought up on Out Pocket with Michael Davis yesterday, was like, probably Jadeveon Clowney. He's still out there. And I'm like, Ryan would not let us live it down in the cat cave. We'd have to like put a suspension on you or do like a Young Bucks fine of like $2,500 every time you mention the word Clowney or Gamecocks.
I would instead of the camera, you would see a picture of. I've met Jadeveon after the Florida game his junior year. Instead of the camera, the picture would be of me and Clowney for the entire show. You would never see me talk. It would just be that picture. And then again, every show I would wear a different. Like I think I've got 1 or 2 number 7 jerseys upstairs. I'd wear my Clowney Gamecock jersey every show. I mean, there's only one other team that he could go to that I'd be happier if he wound up. But I would love the fact if he wound up home. I mean, he's from Rock Hill.
Yeah.
You talk about a local talent. The kid played high school right up the road from Charlotte. So, yeah, I'd love to see the Panthers sign Clowney. That'd be incredible. I mean, people, and I don't mean to dwell on Clowney for too long, but people like to hate on Jadeveon Clowney. They call him they like to say things like he quits on plays and he doesn't have the motor, this, that, and the other. That's not true. There's an article that was put out by. Listen, there was an article put out by someone around Baltimore that they did a feature on Jadeveon Clowney. First of all, the first game of his last season in college, he got rolled up on by a player in North Carolina, and he was hurt the entire season. When I met him, he was in a walking boot after having just played an SEC game against Florida. He got hurt again his rookie season. And he was given a 50-50 chance by his doctors of never playing football again. And this past season, he had a resurgence with an incredible defense in the Baltimore Ravens. He gets crapped on a lot because of what happened at the end of his tenure in Cleveland, when he had practiced in one place the entire week, and at the last second they decided to change his spot with Myles Garrett because it benefited Myles Garrett more. And Clowney said, "I'm not going to do this." And Cleveland said, "All right, we'll go home. We don't need you anymore." And so Clowney took his ball and went home. He admitted that he owned up. He admitted that he probably didn't handle the situation correctly. But you're talking about an organization that just paid, oh my gosh, who did they just give $41 million guaranteed to? Jerry Jeudy. Did the Cleveland Browns give $41 million guaranteed to a wide receiver who has never hit 1,000 yards receiving in his career? I don't believe he's ever played a full season in the NFL and has never lived up to his potential. So you talk about an organization like the Cleveland Browns who tried to put a black mark on the career of Jadeveon Clowney. They can kick rocks with it. Jadeveon Clowney has still got a lot of gas left in the tank. He showed it last year in his resurgence year with the Baltimore Ravens. He'd be an incredible addition to this Carolina defense.
I will push back on that with Jadeveon Clowney. Just to throw some stats up to you. There's a percentage of defensive plays that a player is on the field for their team. Okay. Jadeveon Clowney has never had a 9% for the defense. The most he's ever had is 9% back in 2018 with the Texans. Okay. Jadeveon Clowney has never had double-digit sacks. The most he's been capped
No, Michael. I'm going to cut you off right here. Cut you off right here because miss me with that. He doesn't have sacks record. Miss me with that argument. Right now, I'm going a full bully mode full bully ride mode on you right now. Miss me with that argument. If you've ever seen Jadeveon Clowney play, he is constantly getting in the backfield and pressuring quarterbacks. Not every play has to result in a sack to make you a superstar. He is one of the best defensive ends or outside linebackers, however you want to categorize him, against the run. The dude, there's a reason why his best highlight video is stopping a run play and forcing a fumble in the Outback Bowl. Jadeveon
the
Clowney
one
is
play
an
that
elite,
made him a number 1 overall pick.
No, it's not just one play. That's coming from somebody who didn't watch him play in college. Jadeveon Clowney is an elite defensive lineman when it comes to playing against the run.
I will say that,
and then he doesn't show up on the field. Jadeveon Clowney is elite against the run, and he's a great pass rusher to get pressure on the quarterback. It just doesn't always result in sacks. The same thing happened with Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit this year, and Detroit was one of the best defenses in the NFL. Jadeveon Clowney will bring that sort of play and that sort of impact to a defense in the Carolina. Don't miss me with that argument, dude. Ooh, you got me hot.
And I will say this as well, too. Jadeveon Clowney pulled the most double teams this year of any defensive end or edge rusher in the NFL this year. Played on a team that had the most sacks in the NFL this year. And he attributed to 1/3 of those sacks. He's an aging player. Yes, we know he's in his 30s. I get it. But let me ask you this question right here. Frankie Louvu walked out of the building right under the noses of everybody. Why in the world would we not try to at least do something with Jadeveon Clowney in front of his crowd? It makes the most sense. We talk about stories. We talk about this stuff. We're wrestling guys, all three of us. What a story this would be for Jadeveon Clowney to go back home and play under the lights one more time, not that far away from his own backyard. Let's have some fun, man. Let's do this. No one talks about the Panthers. I
can't believe I got this worked up. I got this worked up today.
I don't know why you get worked up. Clowney's about to be on his 6th team in 11 years. And you mentioned Aiden Hutchinson. Hutchinson's already had a double-digit sack season. He's been in the league 2 years.
We have had quarterbacks
this past year. He had 9.5 his rookie year, 11.5 this year.
But still, we've had quarterbacks that have hopped on more teams than Jadeveon Clowney has in his career, and no one bats an eye on that one right there. And they get paid more money.
Fitzmagic for one.
But I mean, Fitzpatrick was a backup.
He wasn't. Okay. What do you mean he was a backup? How many teams did he start for, Michael?
He had a chance to start on every team he played for.
Because quarterbacks in front of him kept getting hurt. After his tenure in Buffalo.
No. How many teams did Ryan Fitzpatrick start for, Michael? Don't tell me he's a backup when he started for like 8 teams. How many teams did Ryan Fitzpatrick start for, Michael? He was a backup quarterback.
Question. Did Ryan Fitzpatrick ever have a moment on a podcast like this where somebody got riled up saying, we need Fitzpatrick? No, we don't need Fitzpatrick.
I know Dolphins fans that love Fitzpatrick.
We don't need Jadeveon Clowney. Get out of here with that.
Okay? I'm not joking, dude.
Okay, Bill doesn't count.
Dolphins fans love Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Bill doesn't count.
I think he got a bad rap in Buffalo.
Yeah,
he had one bad season in Buffalo when they cut him.
And
they signed him to a monster contract the year before.
And then cut the man on top of that, too.
Come on, Michael. I mean,
Michael, hey, maybe we'll get back in the cat cave next week. And by that time, Jadeveon Clowney is a Panther, and you can have your moment on the show. We'll give you like 2 minutes of fame, and you can be a happy camper. But until then, we got to exit the cat cave until next week. But want to shout out some social medias real quick. You can follow the Cat Cave on all their socials at the Cat Cave _FFSN. You can follow Shannon Smith on Twitter at podcast_Smitty. Ryan's bringing back his tap outs and touchdowns this week. He'll be live later tonight, facebook.com/tapouts and touchdowns, and at X at tapouts and TDs. And then you have, I swear, all my social media accounts. I swear I probably have like 15 of them by this point. For either my personal or my radio shows, my podcast, my Twitter. I also have a TikTok somewhere. But yeah, it's been a fun episode of the Cat Cave. You can follow the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel for more episodes of the Cat Cave. You can go to fansfirstsports.com for the audio version of the Cat Cave. But until next time, exit the Cat Cave, but listen to more content by myself, Ryan, and Shannon on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel and more Carolina-centric podcasts on the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. We'll see you next time, and hopefully Clowney's not a Panther.